can identify the 6 criteria related to a clear learning target. I can unpack a curriculum standard using a no-show chart. I won't assess that today. I can identify the components of the gradual release responsibility model, and I will not assess that today. Any questions about what I plan for you to learn? All right. I'm going to begin with the end in mind. What is the end? The end's in my hand. So I'm beginning with the end in mind. What's the end? Your exit ticket, right. So I'm going to make sure that you know all the knowledge-based information up front before we start applying that knowledge. So here's the first question on your ticket out the door. What are the 3 guiding questions that form the formative assessment model? Remember those 3 bubbles? And each of those 3 bubbles had a question, and you have a copy. I gave you nice little worksheets. So tell me one of the questions. Where am I going? And in North Carolina, that's answered by the North Carolina Standard Course of Study. What's another question? Where am I now? And that's answered by the comprehensive assessment process, a combination of formative assessment, benchmark assessment, and summative assessment. And in most schools, we also have a diagnostic like iReady, or Imagine Learning, or Achieve 3000. There's a whole bunch of platforms that are diagnostic in addition to that. So any questions with number 1? 3 questions. Same questions my missiles used to, if you remember my missiles that I shot from a submarine. My missiles asked those same 3 questions. All right, number 2, and you have a model of the integrated matrix. Remember that yellow-blue, there you go, the pink, yellow, blue chart. So these questions all come from the integrated matrix. So look at that for a second. Pink, yellow, blue. Yep, that's it. You got 2 of those. Whoa, that must mean that sucker is important. It is important. So here's some questions. The integrated matrix is formed through the intersection of blank along the x-axis. Answer is? What's along the x-axis of Bloom's taxonomy? Of the integrated matrix. I just gave you the answer if you were listening. Bloom's revised taxonomy is correct. The integrated matrix is formed through the intersection of Bloom's revised taxonomy along the x-axis with blank down the y-axis. What's blank? Gardner's multiple intelligences. So when I say I'm differentiating for students' ability levels, is that the x-axis or the y-axis?
Is that like Gardner?
Ability levels.
Oh, okay, Bloom.
Correct. Ability levels is Bloom's. If I say I'm differentiating according to the students' learning styles, then it's Gardner's multiple intelligences. And so this integrated matrix can help you differentiate for both of those, and I'll show you how to do that in a few minutes. Verbs from the blank are combined with nouns from the blank. Verbs from which one? Bloom's revised taxonomy are combined with nouns from Gardner's to create instructional strategies and activities. The integrated matrix promotes what? What does it promote? There's 3 R's and a D. Rigor's one of them. Differentiation's the D one. 2 more R's. Okay, I'm going to give them to you. Rigor, relevance, relationships, and differentiation. So back in the day, those of you who've been around as long as me, with the gray hair like I have, and that you don't dye your hair, know that for many years, June Atkinson has as her theme, rigor, relevance, relationships, and differentiation. Sometimes she called it R3D, but it was rigor, relevance, relationships, and differentiation. So that's what the integrated matrix, we use this integrated matrix to define those terms during June Atkinson's time years ago. Rigor, relevance, relationships, and differentiation.
Does it have to be in that order?
It doesn't have to be in that order. Just so you have all 4 of those terms. Rigor, relevance, relationships, differentiation. Any questions on that? Which 2 columns in the integrated matrix represent higher order thinking skills? In parentheses, it says rigor. Which 2?
The blue
The blue is correct, but what are the two?
Evaluate and create.
Correct. Evaluate and create is that answer. Evaluate and create is the answer to the last part of number 2. Any questions? All right, the next thing, the 6 criteria related to a clear learning target. We did that last time. It was on your test last 2 weeks ago. What are they? A learning target is a what? It's what? It's an I can statement is one of them. It's tied to the North Carolina Standard Course of Study. That's 2. Is it measurable with one of your 5 senses is number 3. Right, it has to be completed in one instructional time. How many minutes is my learning target? 45. That's all you guys gave me is 45. So mine's 45. It's new learning. What else?
Is it written in the language the students can understand?
Right, the learning targets are written for the students to let the students know what you plan for them to learn that day. And the last one's the most important one. It comes from MTSS language.
80% mastery.
Right, 80% mastery in core instruction, and you take care of the other 20% during Tier 2, and Tier 3 supports. That's from MTSS. Remember, have I accomplished my goal for each one of my learning targets so far with you guys? Almost 100%. I think last time was 99.8% scored at the proficient level. No, 100% last time scored proficient. 100%. So I'm looking for 80% or above. 100% is definitely 80% or above. Any questions on all the answers for your ticket out the door? Say again one more time. Number 1 are the 3 guiding questions for a formative assessment model. Where am I going? Where am I now? How do I close the gap?
Which one I'm missing on number 3?
Number 3.
I have measurable.
Okay.
1 instructional time.
Okay.
Language must be student friendly.
Okay.
80% mastery.
I can statement.
I can statement.
Do you have 6 of them?
1, 2, 3, 4.
There should be 6.
Oh. This is what I have.
Yeah, on the test, there's only.
Okay.
This one has all 6 though. So your ticket out the door has all 6.
So I'm still missing 1.
So it's measurable, 1 instructional block at a time, language students can understand, I can statement, 80% of the above. Which ones are you missing? Look at your chart. She has language. Standard course of study. Tied to the North Carolina Standard Course of Study. The reason there were only 4 in your test is because tied to the North Carolina Standard was everyone just said everyone should know that. And so we took that out for a while, but then we saw that people were doing things that were not in the North Carolina Standard Course of Study, so we put it back in. And being an I can statement, we took that out for a while, but then we saw people were using the term I will and confusing I will with I can. So we put that back in. Number 3, the 6 criteria related to a clear learning target, that was it.
I can tie to North Carolina Standard Course of Study. Is it measurable?
Right.
Can be completed in a 45-minute target.
And no, 1 instructional block at a time. For me, it's 45. For you, it's somewhere in the 90 range.
Okay.
1 instructional block at a time. What's the other?
Then I got written for the students.
Right.
80% mastery.
80% mastery in core. The other 20% you take care of in Tier 2, Tier 3 supports. Number 2 again. The integrated matrix is formed from the intersection of blank along the x-axis. What is that? Bloom's revised taxonomy. With blank down the y-axis. Gardner's. Verbs from. With nouns from. And then it promotes what?
Rigor, differentiation, relevance, and relationship.
Correct. Rigor, relevance, relationships, differentiation. In any order, it doesn't make any difference. Okay, we're good? All right, so that's all the knowledge-based information for today. Let's go into, so we covered that. Okay, cool stuff. Look at your grab. I'm going to briefly go over this. Here's something I'm going to mention to you, remind you again. I've been given 9 45-minute sessions to do probably a month's worth of professional development. So I'm introducing you to a whole bunch of topics that I can't possibly dig down into deep enough. Cooperative learning structures. I can't possibly go into depth with cooperative learning structures, for instance. It would take me a whole day to do cooperative learning properly. Gradual release responsibility model, that I do, we do, you do. It would take me a whole day at least to do that and to give it all the time it needs. Things like this that I'm going to introduce you to right now, using the integrated matrix to plan differentiated instructional strategies and practices. I'm giving you examples of it. If you look at the stapled piece of paper, that has this on front. You don't have it? Okay. Okay, everyone have it? There you go.
I think you grabbed mine.
I probably did. I grabbed hers. That's exactly right. I do that often. I apologize for that. So in Lexington City Schools, I spent 3 years with them, and in our PLCs, and we simply put this into like a Google Doc, and the teachers during the weeks before the new standard would take over, would plan strategies and activities for the upcoming block using this strategy. And so you see with a whole bunch of topic areas, if you look towards the back, how they put in strategies and activities using the integrated matrix. So they combine those verbs and the nouns, and they created strategies. So you have an example for all kinds of different subject areas, from Richmond Senior High, from the elementary schools in Richmond County. I see Algebra 1, I see elementary school, I see a middle school example. So there's a whole bunch of examples in there, so you can see them. Again, this is another professional development I can come back for, but it would take me a day to go over how to use it effectively. But you can see examples of how you use it to put the nouns and verbs together to create differentiated strategies and activities for the children. Any questions on that? Again, I don't have time to go over it. You don't want this back anymore, do you? Because I gave you another one. All right, so that's that. Now we're getting into unpacking. So there's another worksheet in your pack. Which one's yours? Don't let me steal it.
This is
Okay. So there's the next two pieces of paper we're working with is the no-show chart white and the no-show chart blue. No-show chart white and blue. I'm going to give it right back. Okay, let's start with the white one. So I had some training this summer from a group called Getting Better Faster, coming out of New Jersey, New York area. And I wanted you to see the no-show chart was something new for me. So I just learned that this summer. It's a way to take a standard and to unpack it into learning targets, and then to take a learning target and unpack it into the criteria for success. So today we're just going to look at unpacking a standard using a no-show chart into those learning targets. So the white one is their example. So take a look at that one first. First the definition on the front page, but then a couple examples of what they actually look like in New Jersey and New York. Take a look at the language. And New Jersey, New York uses Common Core. We basically use Common Core. We changed a little bit of language. We pulled out of the assessment process, but we still are using basically Common Core in North Carolina. Look up when you feel like you're done. you think I'm ready to go? Okay, I see most eyes. So when I first looked at that, I thought, holy smokes, just to let you know. And I saw some of your eyes say the same thing, holy smokes. So you know that I like to keep things simple. Lesson plans, Will Sanders, my first principal, said anything more than 1 page on a lesson plan, nobody's going to use. So when I do this across the state, I come up with districts that are using 17-page lesson plans, and I think, holy smokes. And so now I want you to look at an example where I take their idea, but I simplify it using my strategy. That's the blue piece of paper. That's my no-show chart. Same concept, but I take away all that verbiage, and I just make it usable in the classroom. So look at my example. Let me get one of those so I can have a copy, so I can look at mine. So the standard is from 6th grade, is numbers and is NS-.4. And so in the unpacking document, it gave me find the unique prime factors, find the greatest common factor. It gave me use the greatest common factor in distributed property and find the least common multiple. And then I found examples of how to do that off of release tests, and I just wrote those to the side. So that's the things that they need to know, and that's how they're going to show me that they know it, right? As they unpack that standard. In the unpacking document from DPI, it also told me how many days to spend on the standard. How many days? If you look at the number of learning targets, and it's not quite learning targets, but I'll show you how to turn them into learning targets. How many days does it look like it'll take to do this standard? How many? Say.
I want to see 2 numbers.
Count the number. Down to the bottom.
Oh, down here?
Down in the no part. How many different dots do you see? Look on the back. Exactly. So in the unpacking document, it told me to spend 4 days on the standard, and it told me what to do each day. It was right in the standard. And I looked at art. Art does the same thing. I looked at PE. The JLTC person contacted me. I found one for JLTC. So all of you have a document that says, here's a standard. Here's how many days we recommend for you to use. And it unpacks it. Sometimes they call them objectives. Sometimes they call it all kinds of different things, depending on what content area you have. Yes?
Is this 4 up here at the top, it's not the standard, is that any relevant to the 4 days?
That's the standard itself. So this is a standard that you're unpacking, and these become, they're not learning targets yet, but they'll become learning targets.
Well, that's on block, will we double? I mean, are we still, with block, you're twice as fast. Is that like regular, somebody that?
This is block. So they'll give it to you both ways. So you can find it for I think they call it standard or traditional schedule, and then they have block schedule. But I took this out of block schedule. So it's 4 days for block schedule. Okay, are these learning targets though? Is find the unique prime factorization for a whole number, is that a learning target? No, but how could I turn it into a learning target? Yeah, just say, I can find the unique prime factorization for a whole number, and all of a sudden it's a learning target, right? Same thing with the other one. Find the greatest common factor of 2 whole numbers. What do I have to do to it? Just put I can in front of it, and it becomes a learning target, right? As long as it meets all the other criteria. As long as for the students in front of you, you can do it in how much time you have, 90 minutes, and you can gain 80% mastery. If not, you might have to unpack it further. DPI unpacks it for an average student. So if you don't have an average student, you may need to take more time. If you have above average students, you may need to take less time. And that's why we don't do that at DPI. We don't turn them into learning targets at DPI. We give you an average. Does that make sense? Any questions on how to do that? Because you're going to have to do this for one of your standards. All right? Easy, right? Easy peasy. And then later, we're going to take one of those learning targets, like find the unique prime factorization for a whole number. We'll put that at the top, and we'll unpack that into the criteria for success. But we won't do that today. That's telling you what's coming in the future. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. With the standard that you brought with you, do a no-show chart showing me the learning targets you're going to use for that standard. Do the same thing I did. Here's my example. You do yours, the one you brought with you. I sent you an email telling you to bring a standard. You what? Okay, so work with him. Help him do his. Help her do hers. If you don't have a class to teach, that's great information. Help someone at your table get it right. Do you have a class of your own?
I do, but I didn't bring those standards. I forget.
Okay, so think about the standard you're using for this week.
Okay.
And we're going to share out as soon as you're finished. You don't have much time, so do it quickly.
So we're going to look at this.
Just on a piece of paper.
Just on a piece of paper?
Yep.
Okay.
And you can use the back of one of mine. Yep, you can use that. Oh, don't take a brand. Yeah, use one of mine.
Okay.
There's a whole bunch. Like there's nothing on the back of this piece of paper.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, there is. There's got to be one though. Yeah, there's one.
Okay. Reading literature. Okay. So the first thing we'll look at.
Which standard are you working with? Apply fundamental motor skills. Oh, cool. Yep. That'll be easy to unpack.
Easy, I don't know what that will find.
Oh, you can do it. Complex. Needs to participate successfully.
So say again?
Yeah, I was just reading the rest of it. Participate successfully.
So, so what I would say is the student, what I look at is the words from there, right? I can't expect them to do textual evidence if they don't know what it is.
Correct.
So I may say, find,
I can.
or I can find textual evidence in whatever I'm reading, right?
The specific text.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, so
I can find textual evidence in whatever specific text you're going to use that day. Perfect. Perfect. Okay.
How does look a show? If you're looking for something in here, how are you showing that?
So
So if you're looking, how's the teacher know you're showing what when you're looking for verbs?
So how are the students going to show, so these directions are for you, the teacher, things that you're looking for. You're looking for verbs and skills.
Gotcha.
So my verbs would be to solve. I didn't write the verbs.
I thought they would know these things.
No,
but then you show
this is guiding you to make this. I didn't write the verbs. The students are going to have to solve, like, this is a prime factorization tree. So they're going to have to complete or solve or a prime factorization. Those would be my verbs.
Oh, gotcha.
Those would be my verbs. Or I could have them create a tree, like choose a number of their own to give to a student. Yeah, those are directions for you, the teacher. Okay. Yep. Good question though. Good question. Because usually I do it the other way. You're right. You're right. If you need any help, I'm here to help.
So that's how I do it, and this typically, I do it, it's ongoing.
So do you take one and unpack it into all the learning targets? Perfect. Okay, so tell me when you're ready. Are you ready to share out?
No,
Okay.
I'm changing standards.
Okay. Are you about ready to share out? Okay.
So like when I'm thinking, this is my part.
Yes, that's what I need to
Just a
know.
simple, like, I'm thinking about, okay, if you're talking about that muscle group, like, what is the growth from point 1 to point 2? Like, and explaining that. I feel like that's the only thing in there that,
So what I would do is we'll have to test the students first.
oh, okay.
Students.
Assess.
Assess.
Assess the students gaining baseline data. Whoa. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. How much I have until what time?
Let me ask you this, this standing like humongously long, I mean, you see the requirement, like they gotta do this, do I need to put all of it? Like, this is like interpreting key features of graphs, like
So you have, the first question you ask yourself is how many days is it going to take to complete that standard? And that's how many learning targets you have to create. But they don't have to be in a row. Is this language arts?
this is math.
Oh, math. Typically it is in the row for math. So if you took a standard that takes a whole bunch of days, you do have to have a learning target for each day, a unique learning target for each day. But if you look at the unpacking document, it's already done that for you.
Yes, I was looking at.
How many do they say? How many days on that standard?
Where you see the dot.
So here's the unpacking document that I use. That's the site.
So I'm on the wrong one. I mean, so would this be the same thing or no?
It doesn't look the same. Try that N2L. I love that NC2ML. That was made by a college, a university for DPI. We contracted with them. Look at that document. It might be the same, but try that. What time does this one end? 9 o'clock? Yeah, it's 8:15 to 9 o'clock. So at 8, so I can only give you about another minute because I need time for the ticket out the door. So whoever's finished will share out so we can at least see an example of how it's done. And you'll have to complete it. And again, you all have my email address. You all have my text message. You can email me, text message me anytime. I'll answer you at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's the kind of person I am. Okay, so let's go ahead and share out the people are done. So we have a language arts example, right? So here's a language. So we had a math example, mine, and now we have a language arts example.
You mind if I read the standard so everyone?
It's important to read the standard.
So I used 9-10.1, which says cite strong and thorough textual evidence to support analysis of what the text says explicitly, as well as inferences drawn from the text. So a lot of times I was telling my group that kids don't understand what the standard says, so you have to break it down. So we have 3 days. I can find specific textual evidence and narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, and then I can make an inference based off of what the text says in that narrative, and then I can back up my inferences.
So when she said break it down, I call that chunking. So breaking it down, the term I use is chunking, but that's perfect. Here and she thought about the order that she had to do it in. What do I have to do first? What do I have to do second? What do I have to do third? So that's that whole idea of order and prioritization and how much time I give. Perfect job. Woo-hoo! Give her a hand. Perfect. Does anyone else have one that's finished that you'd like to share? Go ahead. What subject area? Okay.
Career management. So the standard was develop positive interpersonal skills, including respect for diversity. What they would know is conflict resolution skills. What they would show is how to identify problems in conflict resolution scenarios and generating possible solutions to solve those.
Okay, so that's your first learning target. So he started the unpacking process. That's his first day worth of instruction, and then he'll continue unpacking from there. Now CTE, like ROTC, like JRTC, the unpacking documents he has are created by the federal government. His are the best unpacking documents you can possibly imagine. So if you've gone to them, his whole lessons are scripted for him. It tells him exactly what to say from beginning to end for every lesson for his whole curriculum. It's really cool. JLTC has the same thing. They've been doing this for years. I've been in this profession for 36 years, and the federal government's been doing this form of unpacking for all 36 years I've been in the profession. So his documents are amazing, absolutely amazing. Anyone else want to share? And you don't have to. But if you have any questions, don't be afraid to email me or text me. I'm a 24-hour-a-day guy. I'll answer you. Depends on what I'm doing. I won't be me. I won't be me. Okay, so did I go over every piece of paper? No, I didn't. There's one more piece of paper, but I'm just going to talk about it and you can read it on your own. It gives you a little bit of information about why the use of the gradual release of responsibility model is so important. But I'm just going to tell you instead of have you read it and talk about it because we're running out of time. So what is the gradual release of responsibility model? In simple terms. I heard someone say something. What did you say? What did you say? Come on. What is it? I do. And what else? You do at the end, and we do. So it's I do, we do, the teacher with the student, and then we do students with students. That's that cooperative, collaborative learning part. And then at the end, you want to see level of mastery, so you have to do what you do, which is the students doing independently without notes, just like you guys do. So I've been demonstrating that in each of my lessons that I've been doing. So gradual release responsibility is I do, we do together, we do students together. So it's two different types. Where do we spend most of our time? In I do, we do, or you do for a lesson? We do, right. The majority of every lesson should be we do. Either we do student with teacher or we do student with student. I do should be brief, you do should be brief, and everything else should be we do. If you want your students to be successful, you should incorporate cooperative learning structures, gradual release responsibility model, and depth of knowledge into every single lesson. And you can see in my lesson designs, I put all three components in every lesson every time I've met with you. And I tell you how many minutes I'm going to do with those, right? So if you want students to be successful, you put those three components in every single lesson. The positive effect size is somewhere between 1.4 and 1.8. 1.4 alone will push a student to high growth. So 1.8 is out of this world. It gets close to two years worth of growth for your students. And cooperative learning structures falls into that category. Okay, any questions on that? It's not on your test today, but it'll be coming up probably on the ticket out the door next week, 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks from now. Okay, if you need time to study, but once you clear off your desk, I'll give you your ticket out the door. So as soon as you're ready for your ticket out the door, clear your desk and I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. This kind of face mask gets really hot to your face when you talk. Whew. do I make it stop recording? What button do I push?